Hey Midlifers. Today's conversation with my guest Kirsten Martin is the last in the series How They Got Started. But not to worry, we actually will be starting another series on April 12th that I am calling Reclaiming Midlife. Now the upcoming series was inspired by a meme. Maybe you saw it. If you didn't, I will have it in the show notes, not to worry. But it is a photo of the Golden Girls right next to a photo of the Sex and the City actresses in the new reboot And Just Like That. So this is a photo of them side by side, and shockingly, the meme lets us know that the characters were the same age. Yeah, let that sink in a minute. I was in total shock, so I actually had to do a little bit checking. And yes, Dorothy stated she was 55 years old in the very first episode of The Golden Girls. 55, y'all. Just let that sink in. I'm turning 56 next week, and I'm sitting here with pink hair streaks, a tattoo, and I'm building a thriving business. And you don't see me wearing a muumuu or living in a retirement community. I mean, the muumuu sounds okay, but the retirement community is kind of like my version of hell. This was eye-opening to me on many levels. Mainly, it really was a reminder of how our view of women and aging in society has shifted, which is good, but it also was a reminder of how far we still have to go. And I really believe that that shift needs to begin in how we see ourselves. I saw a lot of comments and conversations happening when And Just Like That came out. Negative comments about one actress who had received plastic surgery, and then more negative comments about one of the actresses that did not, and oh, she looked old. So honestly, it is really time that as women in these middle years, we start embracing where we are and we start lifting up other women. And that is what I really am hoping that the next series of this podcast will help us all do. I also have an announcement for an upcoming group program that I am creating. Just as a refresher, if you don't know my story, I started my first business as a virtual assistant and online business manager. I was kind of an accidental entrepreneur. I started at the age of 47. Well, let's just put it this way. That's when I started charging. I actually had been doing it for a while and had been giving away my services for free. And finally, I realized that I was really busy and possibly people would pay for it. So I decided at age 47 to give it a try. And what do you know? I became an entrepreneur. About 18 months after I began, I left my 9-to-5, during which time I was also becoming a coach. And so at age 49, I shifted my business, or really, I just really added coaching into what I was already offering. And then in 2016, I started this podcast when I was 50. I honestly feel that I came into my own in midlife. I often say how you don't need to be in business for this podcast, even though I do talk to a lot of entrepreneurs. But still, many of you have reached out to me wanting to know more about becoming an entrepreneur. How do you do it? What do I need to know? What don't I need to know? And so I'm creating a group program just for that. Not only will we be setting up the basics for your business, you'll learn what's really needed and move past all the hype of what's not. We will also look at your business idea and get clear on what you are offering and who you are offering it to. But most important, we are going to look at developing your entrepreneur mindset. I always say that besides parenting, there is no greater growth opportunity than starting and growing a business. Let me tell you, that is so true. I believe that having a successful business is less about strategy and more about the inner work that needs to happen. So for this program, you can either be just starting out with a business idea, or maybe you have an early business that hasn't been around that long, but you still feel that some foundational pieces need to be in place. Whether your business is a side gig, a passion project, or maybe you eventually would like to be a full-time entrepreneur, all of those need to start with a good base. And this program will help you do that within a community of other women doing the same. If you'd be interested in learning more, tap the link in the show notes here on your podcast app or head over to midlifeschmidlife.com and add your name to the list, and you'll be hearing from me soon. I am right now in the creation project of this. And so if you're on this list, I actually will be reaching out because I would love to have your input. So again, be sure to tap the link in the show notes, add your name to the list, and I really hope that I can create something that will be helpful and help you come into your own as well. And that brings me to today's guest, Kerstin Martin. She is a SquareSpace expert who started her business at age 50. So all of you who think, oh, I'm too old to start my own business, let me just tell you, you are not. And now I cannot wait for you to meet Kerstin. I want to introduce you to my guest today, Kerstin Martin. And I think I already messed up your first name.
No, you didn't.
No? Okay, good.
No, it's perfect.
It's like I know how to say it, but when you think about it too much, sometimes I overthink things. Imagine that. So Kerstin is a leading SquareSpace expert and calm business educator who helps entrepreneurs simplify their business tech with the all-in-one SquareSpace platform. Kerstin also publishes the popular Eule Planner, an analog business planner especially designed for digital entrepreneurs. As an HSP and empath, Kerstin's approach to teaching and running an online business is calm and gentle, with a focus on delivering high-quality content, service, and training. She advocates and practices kindness, integrity, and inclusivity. Kerstin is originally from Germany and lives in the Pacific Northwest with her American husband, fluffy cat Stinky, and their plain Ginger. Hi, Kerstin. So glad to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this.
I was very delighted when you said yes. And thank you for being here. I always like to think of when I first connected with people and how, and I'm not really sure, but we've been in similar worlds.
I think because you're a coach, I think online through Instagram, but then Susanna Conway's Inside Story class. Definitely. I think that's where we really connected. Mm-hmm. And especially because you were in the second round now too, right?
Right.
That's where we kind of reconnected. And
yes.
This is what I love about those types of classes, actually, where people meet and you have this community and you actually get to know people. I have a lot of online friends from Susanna's classes, actually.
Yeah. Well, it's such a wonderful group, right? Like we're all very empathic, HSP type of heart center, very much so. And I love being a part of someone's world where they're just kind of calling in. They're calling in their community because that's who they are. And I think that's how that you and I both like to have our businesses be too.
Absolutely.
So, and the interesting thing when you were just saying, just being able to meet people and everything, we talked before we hit record about how you're in the Pacific Northwest. I'm in Florida. We're on opposite coasts, opposite corners, basically. And here we are. It's like the magic, the good part of the internet.
Absolutely. And I mean, there's so much, unfortunately, crap out there. Sorry, I don't know if I can say things like that.
No, but, you can say it all.
And that's actually fairly modest still. I don't really swear, but if I do, then things are pretty bad. So, but there's just so much noise and nonsense out there. So, but I really like to focus on the good side of the internet and the good parts. And that is really to connect people. And to, in my case, as an expat, it connects me with my family in Germany. And I like my nephew, I haven't seen him in 5 years and he's still young. He's only 8, but we know each other through the computer. He calls, he Skypes me. Oh, no, I still say Skype. Nobody uses Skype anymore.
No, we all know what you mean.
He FaceTimes me. That's right. That's what we do. He FaceTimes me and, I have a new piano song that I want to play for you.
Oh, and that's nice.
So we actually have this connection that otherwise we would not have because we live so far apart. And And then, of course, you and I, to meet the way we did. And now we are, talking like this. And it's pretty amazing. I love that part about the internet,
amazing.
How it's like opened up our worlds,
Yeah. Well, and that brings me to what you do. And I can't help but reflect back about how you helping other women entrepreneurs build their websites, how that helps them connect with their people as well. One of the reasons that I love your story is that you became a SquareSpace designer in your 50s.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So
I mean, do you want me to just?
I was going to say, everyone out there who thinks, oh, I'm too old to start something new. This is an example of, no, you're not.
Definitely not.
Right.
And it's, I mean, I am an accidental entrepreneur. So I have a pretty, colorful career, if you want. I've done many jobs in different industries. I was a flight attendant. I worked in the airline industry for a long time. I worked in hospitality. I worked in corporate sales and education. I was the registrar of an international school. I was a college secretary. So I've done lots and lots of different things. And sometimes, I often felt a bit jealous of the doctors and the lawyers because they seem to have such a straight path. And I never quite knew what I wanted to do. Of course, now I've learned I'm an Enneagram type 9. I'm a human design projector 3-5, which I only learned this week,
That's exciting.
I tell you, that was so eye-opening because that particular type and profile lives by trial and error. And that is exactly what my life has been like. It's been trial and error. I tried many different things and I was never afraid to try different things. And if it didn't work out, well, then I'll try something else. But at the time, I often felt a bit kind of scattered around, because, why can't I just find the job? That is it. And but I had a lot of wonderful experiences. I learned a lot. And so when we moved from the UK, where we lived at the time, here to the Pacific Northwest at the end of 2014, the idea was that I would just find another job again. And I was in my early 50s at the time. And then a friend of mine asked me to redesign her business website. Now, I'd been a blogger since 2005, so like almost 10 years at that point. I was just blogging about weight loss and the never-ending story of weight loss, but also life. And I was always redesigning my blogs. I just loved that part of it. And it was like that became my creative outlet, if you want, the writing, but also the redesigning. And in 2008, I discovered SquareSpace. So I was using I actually started out on Blogger, if anyone remembers that, and Typepad at least for a while, and then WordPress for a few years. And then I discovered SquareSpace in 2008, and I basically never looked back. And I just loved it. So I redesigned my friend's website as we were transitioning, and it was a huge success. It actually kind of changed her business overnight, which was amazing. And she had an art studio up in Vancouver. And so then I thought, well, this went well. And so why don't I become a SquareSpace web designer? And literally, I mean, that's kind of what I do. I think actually I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. It's probably another reason why I've always had so many jobs, because I like the excitement of starting something new. So I thought, well, again, trial and error. I could just try this. And so I actually rented a little office in the historic part of Bellingham in Fairhaven, which is really nice. And that was actually perfect for that transition from corporate life, being employed, to self-employed, because I still had an office to go to, but I could make my own hours, and I certainly did. So the transition was actually easier because I still felt like I had a proper job, And the other good thing about that was that I was plugged into the local business community. And because I was in an office building shared with other businesses. And so I became kind of the go-to web designer. And so that was great. I loved it. I mean, it was I have to say, I stumbled into entrepreneurship and I figured a lot of things out along the way. So it really just started by accident, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I got to do something that I enjoyed so much, design. And then a year later, that's actually when I took Susanna's Inside Story course for the first time in 2016. And that inspired me to launch my first online course, because people also were always asking me, well, how do you do this in Squarespace? And how do you do that? I thought, well, why don't I teach a web design course on how to build a website in Squarespace? And out of that grew my online education business. And so I did one-on-one web design and online courses for a couple of years in parallel. But then it became too much to handle for one person. So I decided in 2019, well, I'm just going to, again, try for 12 months. I'm not going to do any one-on-one projects. I'm just going to fully focus on my online courses. And it felt a bit like a risk, because it's a very different business model. If you offer productized services, you need a larger audience, and so the marketing is very different. I still don't really do any marketing, though, having said that.
Well, I mean, I think your marketing is word of mouth.
Well, and SEO, actually, I always had really good SEO. So a lot of people still find me through SEO. And networking, I do quite a lot of networking. And also I kept creating new courses. And so, of course, my existing audience then bought my new courses. That's kind of how you can build a business. But for a few years, that worked really well. And I really enjoyed it as well.
Yeah.
I love teaching, actually. And I've always, even in my corporate jobs, I've often been a workshop facilitator, and so I've often worked with the public, and I love working with people. I love people and technology. That's always been the red threads throughout my career. And it's just really interesting to me how everything I've done in my professional life really converged in running my own business. And I think that is the beauty also of starting a business later in life. Many people think, oh, I'm too old and nobody will want me and nobody will look at me. I'm invisible, especially as a woman, I'm invisible. But that's actually not true. It's actually the opposite, because we have life experience, we have professional experience. All of that experience will actually make it easier for us to start our own business.
Yeah,
I think there's been a study even for that as well, that people who start a business later in life are more successful or are more likely to keep going. And so I think actually we have a lot of advantages, to do this.
I agree.
So that's been one of the most interesting realizations, actually, is that it's almost like everything I've done has led now to this moment. And now it's kind of coming into its own. Now I have found my thing now.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love, like, there's a golden thread that runs through everything that we do, and you've been able to take and to be able to look back on it and realize, oh, in corporate as a workshop facilitator, and how that's helped inform me be a teacher, and just all these little bits and pieces. Maybe it wasn't so much your job title, but just the skills that you use and being able to bring those together.
Absolutely.
I'm going to say one of the questions I was going to ask you was, I assumed that you had website design experience and that's what led you to Squarespace, but you just did it on your own. That was your experience.
I'm entirely self-taught, and I always actually have been. I did go to university when I was younger, and I'm a university dropout because I'm not an academic. I'm not an academic learner. I learn by doing. So I'm one of those people. So I had been dabbling with web design for almost 10 years. I mean, nowadays, there's a lot of help out there that you can get, but that wasn't available when I started, certainly not for Squarespace. There was a lot of stuff for WordPress, but not for Squarespace. And but I'm entirely self-taught, and which means it was a steep learning curve when I started. And but that's fine, because I love learning. I'm still learning. I mean, the learning never stops. And I guess what you call a self-made business owner. And it's possible to do that.
I hear this, and you've probably heard this too. People will say, oh, I wish I could do that. And it's like, you can. You just have to decide that you
and it's interesting you say that, because I have watched people online. I remember watching actually some web designers, and they were WordPress designers. And I thought, wow, that is so cool. How cool would it be to be a web designer? But I never felt comfortable enough with WordPress to offer that as a service.
Right.
And that is really where SquareSpace changed my life, to be honest, because SquareSpace was the perfect platform for me, because I'm predominantly a designer, not a developer. I do like to tinker with code, but only for what I need. I don't want to learn the whole spectrum of coding. And I just want to learn enough so that I can do what I need to do. And Squarespace is really perfect for that, because they are very design focused and they make it easy, and they deal with all the technical stuff in the back end. And it's just wonderful. It's actually been really interesting to see their evolution as well since those early days. And of course, now it's much more than just a website builder. Now I do everything through my Squarespace website: email marketing, scheduling, commerce, and sell my Eule Planner through my website. And so Squarespace in a way made that possible. I mean, this is a very different kind of life. And it certainly took me a few years to get used to the uncertainty. I mean, I only last year finally got to a point, like in year 7, I finally got to a point where I felt, oh, okay, maybe my business isn't just all going to collapse around me any day.
Right, exactly.
And maybe, because I was always like, okay, this month nobody's going to buy my courses. This month is when it's all going to fall apart,
Yeah, I'm not laughing at you. I can just so understand.
Yeah,
I mean, I've had that conversation with myself often.
It's a real fear. And I think that is one of the things that it's almost like, in my case, I just accept that fear, and then I just keep doing what I'm doing. So I think one of the things that helped me the most in all these years is what I call my business blinders. I put my business blinders on, or sometimes people call it stay in your lane, and so whenever I feel these anxieties or the FOMO, the fear of missing out, or any of that stuff, I just think, okay, this is okay to feel this way. But look where you are now. Right now, you still have a business.
Yeah.
So just focus on what you're doing. Focus on creating your blog post. Focus on doing your bookkeeping. Focus on gathering information for your next course. Focus on doing a podcast.
Right.
And just keep doing, stay in your lane, put on the business blinders, and just ignore both the inner noise and the outer noise.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's great advice. Definitely. So I have taken a couple of your courses, and they've been so super helpful. The way you teach, it very much is I'm going to show you how to do this. I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but you give examples. So helpful.
Yeah. People always say it's like I'm sitting next to them, showing them how. And I never script anything, but at the end of the day, that's just how I do. But so at least my students seem to really appreciate that. And I think I keep it simple. I don't dazzle them with, the technology words, because to be honest, half the time I don't actually know them. I often call, that thing there. I cannot remember what it is, but that's okay, because I'm not teaching you web design as such. I just teach you how to build a website and how to do it in a way that someone who isn't a designer can actually still do it.
Exactly.
So I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Before we move forward, we're talking about you being a Squarespace designer, but you're actually a Squarespace expert, and that's different.
Yeah. And that is something that's evolved over the years, because when I started being a Squarespace designer, as I said earlier, I'd already been using it. I remember version 5. We're now on version 7.1, and version 5 was very different. I actually loved it. I was a bit pissed off when they changed that.
I know they always do that. It's like, wait, I just got used to it.
But then they launched 7, and that kind of reconciled me again. Now 7.1, I absolutely love. So I knew quite a lot. And I think because I'm also one of those people, when I find something that doesn't quite work, I will always reach out to them. I'm always in touch with their support. And then once I started doing it professionally, they also have something called the Circle, Squarespace Circle. And so where it's mostly for designers or for advanced Squarespace users, you have to have built at least 3 websites to join the circle. And so I found this whole community there of other designers. So I learned a lot from that. I'm also a frequent beta tester. But I think because I always look at it from the user perspective. And so I have a lead into SquareSpace, or have an ear at SquareSpace, along with a group of other designers and experts as well. And because sometimes you have these technical people, developers, and they don't always think about, well, how's this going to really impact the end user? And I'm always thinking at it from the point of view of the end user, because I'm always about making things as easy as possible for someone. And which is why sometimes, like now in 7.1, you have to do a few steps to do something. And it's like, why do we have to do so many steps? Why do I have to click through all these levels? Right. It's not necessary. I'm sure sometimes there's a technical reason for that, but I'm always dabbling with my own website, with a couple of other websites that I have. I love helping people. And so I figure out a lot of stuff, and then I share what I figure out. And that's how I became an expert. It's funny because I remember when I was younger, someone once asked me something in an interview, well, what do you want to be? And I said, well, I just would love to be an expert at something and then help people with that.
Yeah.
And
looky there.
That's exactly what I've done now.
Yeah.
You know? And how amazing is that?
That's very amazing. That's very amazing. So tell me where the Eule Planner came in, which, by the way, listeners, the best planner around. Here's mine right here. We're on video.
Oh, lovely.
It's my other brain, and I have lots of conversations with her. And
yes, same here.
Yeah.
Again, it was one of my ideas. I always have lots of ideas, which is why I have 10,000 URLs as well, because I was by domain name, just in case I do
me
this,
too. Like a collection.
Well.
Yes.
Yeah. Isn't that funny?
It is.
So I've always been a journaler. I've always used bullet type journals and Leuchtturm journals, blank journals, made my own charts and things in there. And that worked to a degree, but I always thought, wouldn't it be nice to have these charts pre-printed and to have everything just already there? So at the end of 2018, I thought, you know what? I'm just going to design my own planner. And so I sat down, and to be honest, I no fancy software. I just did it in Apple Pages, So the whole planner is designed in Pages and then exported to PDF, which is what the printer uses. And that is where many people get stuck, because they feel, I need something really fancy. I need something really expensive, or I need to know so much more than I know to get started. And actually that isn't always true. Sometimes it's true, but not always. Right. So in this case, I thought, well, how can I do this in a simple way with what I have? So that's what I did. I just used Pages and designed the inside, and it worked amazing. And then I found a printer. I wanted to have a US printer, everything locally sourced. And I was amazed. I actually found a really good printer who didn't charge an arm and a leg. I tried a local printer here, and because my print runs are really small, because I'm not a retail business. Right. My first edition was only 50 copies. And it was amazing that I found a printer that charged me an amount that made it possible for me to sell it. And I mean, the margins were very slim, but I didn't care about that. It was just a passion project, you know. So within 2 months, the Eule Planner was born. Eule means owl in German. And I dedicated to my mom, who passed away in 2015. And she loved owls. She loved reading. She was the first online entrepreneur in my family. In her 60s, she started an Amazon bookstore.
That's awesome.
Fulfilling her lifetime dream of selling books, And she did that for more than 10 years. She was a very successful seller, actually, on Amazon. And so I dedicated it to her and called it. Now, Eule in German is pronounced Eule. Sometimes people say, you're pronouncing this wrong. But I prefer the English pronunciation, actually. I like Eule Planner, so I don't like Eule Planner. So
that doesn't sound very good.
It doesn't. That's how it was born. And then people really liked it. I sold out. And so I've been increasing my print runs every year. And I don't do a lot of marketing. Initially I thought, maybe I'll just have a Eule press and do all sorts of planners but I realized retail, again, is a totally different beast, which at the time I didn't really think about, to be honest. But after a couple of years, I realized, wow, you really have to do a lot of marketing and your margins are very slim. So you have to sell on volume. I mean, retail only works on volume, really, unless you charge a lot for it. And I can't charge $100 for planner,
Right.
Well, I could maybe. I mean, maybe some people do, but, that's not what I want to do.
Right. And that's not who you are,
No, So I decided this will never be like my big business. And as long as people want it, I will make it. Because I'll still use it myself.
Yeah.
Anyway, so again, this shows the evolution of, I always have ideas. Sometimes I act on them. Sometimes I put them on the back burner.
Right. But you're open to the ideas.
Yeah, open. I'm curious. And I'm all about making life a bit easier. I'm all about making life more beautiful and a bit easier. And which I think is why web design is so perfect, because it's something where you can create something beautiful, but it can also make a lot of things easier because it's technology. Yeah. And that's, for me, the prime purpose of technology is to make things easier and more efficient. Yes. I'm German, after all. I'm all about being efficient. So organized and efficient. And I feel, and that's the nice thing about running your own business, because when I have ideas, I can act on them and I can run with them and feel them out. I don't have to get permission. I don't have to run it up the ladder, to get the CEO's approval. And none of that. And I feel if you're that kind of person that likes to change things up every now and then or try different things, then really being an entrepreneur is perfect, and having your own business. You have so much flexibility and room, and I think you resonate with that,
Very much so. I'm nodding my head. Yes.
Yeah, you've done so many different things as well, right?
Yeah, and open to whatever's next. Yeah. You've used it a couple times, evolving or evolution. And I'm just thinking that now you're kind of in another evolution, not just with the Eule Planner, but you're now you have your Calm Business Review, which came out at the end of the year and totally loved it. I printed it out. It reminded me when you were talking about starting your business. It's not a lot of fluff. It's just like, let's look at this. People have a lot of money stories, right? So when you're having a business and you're having to keep track of all that stuff, and the way that you just had it laid out, it was like, oh, wow, look, I can do this. So
absolutely. And that's why I wanted to include the money part, because you know what, I don't have a good money history, and I don't often talk about this, but about 20 years ago, so I went bankrupt actually when I lived in the UK. I had so much debt. I mean, UK is expensive. I was single at the time and it was hard, but I also wasn't very good with my money. And so I ended up doing that. And at the time in the UK, it was very easy. You literally got a blank slate, which I know over here, I think works a little differently. But there, literally, it was all gone. The whole debt was gone. And then I left the country to move to America. So so I didn't have to deal with the consequences of it, but
it does, it leaves. So I'm just going to, I don't want to interrupt you, but I just want you to know that I've been there. Okay. So I experienced very similar and trusted people I shouldn't have, there's a lot that goes into that, being brought up with not really healthy money. Surroundings. There's a lot, and you can then carry that money story with you for a long time.
Absolutely, and I really, and I tell you, running my own business changed that for me, because now I was responsible for everything, and I tell you, I kept track of everything. I always had my spreadsheet, and I got to a point where the bookkeeping became a little unwieldy, but I found a solution for that. And I feel a friend of mine once told me, I know she was also struggling with money in her business, but she was also like putting her head in the sand a bit. And she said, actually, I decided I'm going to face up to it now. I'm going to print out all my bills. I'm going to have it right here. I'm going to know what is what. That turned things around for her. It's when we actually face up to it. And it can be hard sometimes, because if you're not quite earning at the level yet that you want to or need to, that's why I included this exercise. Have a look at your expenses, also your personal expenses, so you really know where you need to be. And then you can think about how you're either going to close that gap that you have, or maybe you still have a part-time job, or maybe someone can lend you some money, whatever. But information is power, and it's really true. And that's partly why I wanted to make sure to include this. But it was funny that this was another project where, again, it came out of Susanna's course, The Inside Story. Again, So
we're gonna keep plugging this course because it is amazing.
I know it's just weird, but awesome. I feel it's deserved because it really has made a difference. And we talked about freebies and what kind of freebies we could offer. And I thought, I want to offer something substantial. So the process that I've always been doing at the end of every year, even for me, it was really nice to actually have a workbook now, because I just had spreadsheets here and there and notes, and now it's like, wow. Even I have to say, I'm a little impressed with what I've created here.
You should be. You should be.
So, but again, it's all about being aware in your business, being present and knowing where you stand. It's very easy to feel overwhelmed because we have to manage so much as solo business owners.
Right.
We wear so many hats. So I feel, again, how can I make this calmer and easier? And really, the calm business, Susanna, again, mentioned in one of her modules, she has a small business because she wants to feel calm. And that, to me, just was a light bulb going off in my head. Oh my God, that is exactly what I want, because I want a calm business. And that is really going to be the umbrella of my business now going forward. That is why, for instance, I use SquareSpace as an all-in-one platform. Makes me feel calmer because I have it all in one place. It's easy. And I love how it all plugs into each other. And it's just building a newsletter is fun. And it's easy to plug in a blog post, to plug in a product. And so everything is interconnected. I just need one place to go to, even host my courses on my own Squarespace website. So people only need to know one place to go to, my website. They don't need to go to another platform and get used to another format. And so it's all about simplifying and being well organized. That makes me feel calm.
Yeah. Well, it makes your students feel calm too. I will say it's made me rethink some things that I've had in the works, and going here and there and trying to find the best way, and seeing how you did it was just eye-opening. It was like, oh, wait, I don't have to make this difficult.
Absolutely. Well, it's easy though, because we have so many options these days, because we get bombarded with stuff all day long. Or do this, do that, and optimize here, and use this productivity tool and that. And everyone has a process, and that's fine. I mean, ultimately, we want to find what works for us, but it's noisy. And I, being an HSP and empath and all of that, I have to manage my energy. And so keeping things calm is really important. And it's really becoming now a core element, actually. So I'm going to probably keep creating things that can help people also feel calm. Not everyone wants the hustle, for instance. It's almost like an anti-hustle movement, you know?
Please.
And
yes.
I think we need it. We need it so badly.
Definitely. I'm looking at the time, and I think we're going to have to come back and talk about being an HSP and an empath, because such an important conversation. HSP listeners, if you're not familiar, it's a highly sensitive person. I think I've had an episode talking about that several years ago, but just how managing your energy is so important. So
all about the energy management.
Oh my gosh. So honestly, I find it more important to manage my energy than to manage my time, because once I manage my energy, then my time it's crazy.
That is actually such a key statement. It really is. So time management is great, but actually energy management is what we need, especially if you are an HSP. And well put.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have another conversation about that.
Oh, yeah. That we can easily fill another hour with that.
Definitely. Before we jump into our Midlife Hot Flash, which is our 10 questions, rapid fire questions, I want to know about ginger, because I love ginger. So tell me about ginger.
Oh, Ginger, our plane. Yeah. Well, my husband is an aviator. He is a private pilot, and he has a huge passion for aviation. And his dream has always been to have a plane. And he almost did when he was younger, but then he got married instead. And now his wife lives in the plane, basically. He had the money, but he bought the land for the house they built and all that, his ex-wife, and
okay.
Not wife, his ex-wife.
I was going to say, wait, what?
I know. I always do that. Yeah. His first wife. And so anyway, so it's been a dream for a long time. And when we moved to Bellingham, he joined a flying club and he became part of the local aviation community. And he's been looking for a long time just for the right plane. Now, I have to say, people often think you have to be like this mega rich person to afford a plane. We're not mega rich. We're very regular people in many ways. We live in a condo and we're not extravagant by any means. Yeah. And he looked and he found his unicorn, a really good plane, used plane, of course, and in very good condition. And it ticked all the boxes for him.
Yeah.
And this was in 2020 when we had the pandemic, which is amazing for us that in the pandemic, this was one of the good things that came out of it, So we bought the plane and it's been amazing. He's mostly the one who flies it, but I go with him and I might do my license at some
I was
point,
going to ask you.
Yes. Yeah, I'm definitely, it's a little daunting because to be honest, there's a lot to learn. And and remember, I learn by doing, so I'm probably this year, I'm going to take a few lessons with an instructor and kind of see how that goes. And then, but I love it. We can just go, it's so beautiful here in the Pacific Northwest. We just go island hopping. We go over to Orcas Island, have a nice lunch outside, and it's like being on vacation, but then you sleep in your own bed at night.
Right.
We want to travel maybe across the country one day and we might come to Florida.
There we go. That'd be awesome.
That's the dream, but again, I feel it's, so dreams can come true and you don't have to be a certain thing to make it happen, and perseverance. And in this case, being very informed as my husband was, knowing exactly what he wanted. And then when he found it, he could jump on it.
Yeah.
So,
I love that.
And we named her Ginger because she has this kind of orangey red color, and
and Ginger has an Instagram page or profile
Ginger's
that I will share.
Yes, yeah, Ginger's a plane. That's right, and my husband is it's funny. My husband was never a social media guy. He was always like, "Leave me out of your stuff, please."
Right.
And so
he's got his own.
And now, but he always says it's not his, it's
the planes. Okay.
It's Ginger's page. It's not him. You see him a little bit sometimes,
right.
And he has he has a YouTube channel too now.
Oh, wow.
He loves doing videos. So he's learning about creating videos and he talks now. He's got a very soothing voice and he's having a lot of fun with it. So it's kind of fun to watch that. Yeah.
Yeah, very much.
Suddenly he cares about followers.
Yeah.
And
it's funny.
Yeah. Welcome to my world.
I was just going to say, welcome to my world. Yeah, exactly. That's exciting. That's fun.
If you ever come up here, anyone who comes up here, they will get a little flight in Ginger.
Oh,
My
okay.
husband loves taking people up. Yeah.
Yay.
He loves that.
Oh, gosh. All right. Well, I'm going to have to book a flight now.
Yeah.
Which I would love to do anyway. So, but yeah, I would love to have a flight in Ginger. So are you ready for the Midlife Hot Flash?
I think so. I can try.
Okay. Well, this is just 10 rapid fire questions, as rapid as we can make them, because I often butt in and we start talking about it. But we'll start with an easy one. Tea or coffee?
Coffee. Yeah, I love my coffee.
Favorite all-time band or musician?
Van Morrison. Although I have to say, since he's been a bit of a dick in COVID,
I know, right?
I was so disappointed. I thought, what are you doing?
Too.
Why are you like this?
Exactly.
And I love him. I love his music, and I've been a fan of his for a long time. And when I lived in the UK, every year I went to a Van Morrison concert. I actually met him in person once, and he really is as grumpy as his reputation says he is. And
that's disappointing.
Yeah, well, but that I have to say, that really changed my view a little bit on him when I heard about all him and Eric Clapton and all of that. It's like, what?
I know.
No.
Yeah. Basically, yes. I was very disappointed. Yeah. Very disappointed. So, my favorite song of his is Queen of the Slipstream.
Oh, I love that song.
I love that song.
That's actually, is that on the Poetic Champions album? I think it might be.
I think so. It's not a very, everybody knows Brown Eyed Girl, which, it's a great song.
Yeah, no, I'm not so into those, I love Queen of, I love one called In the Garden.
That's a great one too.
Yeah, that one is really nice.
Yes, that one's very good too.
That's my favorite.
All right, so we can still like his music even though he is a dick. So
yeah.
Favorite dessert?
Tiramisu. I love tiramisu. Creamy desserts.
Yes. What did you want to be when you grew up?
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I really didn't. When people ask me that, I don't know. I wanted to travel. That's really what I wanted, to get out of Cologne and travel and see the world.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do something. Didn't know what I wanted to be.
I understand. Your current self-indulgence.
Oh, gosh. What kind of thing is that? I don't know.
You don't know? It could be anything.
I don't know. Maybe it's something. I mean, I'm really interested now in learning. That's kind of an indulgence for me, about human design.
Oh, yeah.
I want to learn about human design. I'm very fascinated by that. So maybe that's my indulgence.
I
don't know if that counts as an indulgence. But
anything that I think it can be anything that
I feel quite excited about learning more about it. So yeah.
It's fascinating. It's definitely fascinating.
Have you done a little bit of it? Have you?
Yes, I'm a manifesting generator. Lots of ideas.
Okay.
All the time. Hence the lots of domain names. Yeah. But other than that, I learned something, but I don't remember something about I think my spleen is, I don't know. There's like so many things to keep track of.
Oh, I know. I only discovered it this week, so I've not even scratched the surface. I've just kind of, looked at it basically. And, but what I like is that unlike the Enneagram or Myers-Briggs, it's like in astrology. So it's actually defined by your birth time and place. And I like that. So you don't have to do tests and figure out and double, guess whether this is really your type or not. So, and I was just blown away by how accurate it was. I really was.
I was too. Yeah.
So I want to learn more. I want to learn more about it. So, and I've already bought a domain about it too.
Yay! Oh my gosh, that's so exciting.
I thought maybe this is something I could also at some point. Because I love these kind of subjects. So, and it just really resonates with me. So we'll see.
Oh, that's so exciting. I really love when we can learn more about ourselves. So any tool I think that we can have to help us know ourselves better is just so helpful.
I wish some had actually been around sooner, because I think it helps us make sense of things and how we see the world, how we interact. And I have to say, even in my marriage. So I love the Enneagram. So I'm a type 9. My husband is a type 6. And now we actually, it helps us how we engage with each other, because now I know when he's doing certain things, that's your type 6. He even says that now, and he's not really into this kind of stuff. But I'm being a very type 6 today, aren't I? And so it actually helps us communicate, and I feel that's the important part, to feel seen. I think that makes a big difference. I wish, for instance, corporations, some do to a degree, they do have these trainings with their people and all that, but it's almost like something we should maybe even learn in school. Because
I agree.
Then it impacts how we see people, how we can maybe be a bit more understanding, when someone acts in a way that maybe doesn't resonate with us,
Right.
But it gives us a language, it gives us a way of just communicating things. And that's why I was so impressed with what I've learned so far of the human design, because it was so accurate. And it really felt like, oh my gosh, suddenly things make sense. Yeah. And so I want to learn more.
Yeah.
So that's
awesome. What is inspiring you right now?
I think what we talked about earlier, the calm business theme, I'm really inspired to do more there. It's almost like a movement. I want to create this movement where we focus more on those things in our online businesses. I feel very inspired by that.
Yeah. And I just want to say too, that even if you're not in business, to have that aspiration to be more calm in your life. I know it's really easy to get caught up on FOMO and what other people are doing. Staying in your own lane, like all through your life, is just so important, and not and really strive for that.
Yeah.
What do you hope people say about you?
She is so interesting to talk to. I love a good conversation. And I hope people enjoy talking to me,
What advice do you wish you could give your 20-year-old self?
Oh, stop dieting.
Oh my gosh.
Stop dieting and deal with your trauma, and get help for your trauma so that you don't have to use food to feel calm,
Yes.
And
gosh. So, at any age, let's stop dieting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh. If you could be an animal for one day, what would you be and why?
Oh, someone actually asked me that before, and I couldn't really come up with an answer. I like being a human animal, to be honest.
That's great.
And I mean,
awesome.
I always think if I have to come back in another life as an animal, I wouldn't mind being a cat, and because I love cats, and they sleep a lot, they get petted, and if they are with good owners, that is, and they're reasonably independent, and maybe a cat.
I like it.
But I quite like being a human animal.
A human. I have to share. This is a question I ask my new clients, and a cat is my number one chosen animal. So
interesting.
It's very interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah. Independence is one of the things that's named.
Yeah.
Being able to nap whenever they want to.
Yeah.
So it's a desire.
Having someone to stroke me.
Exactly. It's a very desired, and only when we want it, right? Like.
Oh, exactly. That's right. Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Our last question. What would you like to share with other women in midlife? Any words of advice or wisdom?
Well, I think what we've already talked about, put on your blinders. There's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of noise inside too. Our inner voices can wreak havoc with our confidence and all of that. And I would say just ignore it all. Feel it, acknowledge it, absolutely, but ignore it. Put on your blinders and keep doing what you're doing.
I love that. That's great advice. Thank you so much for being here. And I just
thank you.
Yeah,
this is wonderful.
I loved having our conversation.
Me too. Well, thank you so much, Liz, for having me. I really appreciated this.